Last week, Saudi Arabian journalist and Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi vanished. And ever since, people have been trying to figure out exactly what happened. It's starting to look like we know, but I want to give you all the details. So first, the 59-year-old veteran journalist was last seen on Tuesday, October 2nd, walking into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. He was there to obtain a document verifying his divorce from a previous marriage so that he could marry a Turkish woman. Now, what you should know about him before we proceed with what happened that day is that he is both a journalist, columnist for the Washington Post, and also a man who has been critical of the current regime in Saudi Arabia, specifically attacking Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. We have a few quotes to that effect, and in terms of their censorship and crackdowns on journalists and locking people up and things like that. He had previously said, "I have left my home, my family, and my job, and I am raising my voice. To do otherwise would betray those who languish in prison. I can speak when so many cannot. I want you to know that Saudi Arabia has not always been as it is now. We Saudis deserve better." He had also expressed concern about being targeted by the Saudi government for his views, telling journalist Robin Wright in August that the country's new leadership would like to, quote, "see me out of the picture." With that now out there, let's talk about what else is known about what happened about a week ago. On Wednesday, this earlier today, Turkish security officials concluded that, quote, "the highest levels of the royal court in Saudi Arabia ordered the assassination of Khashoggi." Officials have said that a 15-person team flew from Saudi Arabia to Istanbul on the day that he arrived at the consulate. Some arrived on 2 private planes, and CNN apparently has some aviation data to back that up. And what's interesting is that they're not only just saying there is a 15-person team, they are identifying particular individuals on that team, some of which we have details on. One is the chief of forensic evidence at Saudi Arabia's internal security agency. Another is an officer in the Saudi special forces who posted pictures of himself on social media, posing in a living room with a shiny stainless steel handgun. 2 others appear to be members of the Saudi Royal Guard, pictured in a Saudi newspaper photograph next to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
But how do you know they're connected to him?
I mean, everybody takes pictures. And so what the picture that seems to be arising out of this is that he shows up at the consulate. That is the last that he has seen. It is believed that he was killed relatively quickly after appearing there. One of the officials in the Turkish government, quoted by the New York Times, described the operation as quick and complex, and that Khashoggi was killed within 2 hours of his arrival at the consulate. The agents, quote, "dismembered his body with a bone saw they brought for the purpose." The official said it's like Pulp Fiction. And so that is what the Turkish investigators are saying. They're saying they have specific evidence that backs this up, although they have not made that public yet. In response, a Saudi official said the kingdom, quote, "categorically denies any involvement in Jamal's disappearance."
They said that they were also looking for him, and I'm not kidding. Kind of like OJ is still looking for the real killer.
They said his well-being as a Saudi citizen is our utmost concern. We are focusing on the investigation as a means to reveal the truth behind his disappearance. Our sympathies go out to the family during this difficult time.
Yeah, one way you could have shown sympathy to the family is by perhaps not murdering him. Okay, now look, I don't know how the Turkish officials know the Pulp Fiction details, the dismemberment, etc. But the video evidence, at least on the surface, appears to be very clear. He goes into the embassy at 1:14 p.m. and there is never any video of him leaving from the back or the front or anywhere else. And then these Saudi officials come in. One of them, one set of security guys lands, goes to the private residence next to the consulate of the diplomat, and then an hour and 15 minutes later gets back into the car and onto the plane and leaves the country. They showed up for an hour and 15 minutes. I don't think they came to get the best kebab in Istanbul.
No.
Okay.
We do have some other evidence as well that sort of buttresses this. On Tuesday, The Guardian reported that the consulate's Turkish staff were told to take a day off the day Khashoggi disappeared. It also reported that Turkish investigators believe that the security footage from inside the consulate was removed and taken back to Saudi Arabia on a private jet. So that's the security footage inside of the consulate. Outside's a different story. During a tour of the 6-story consulate given to journalists on Saturday, Saudi Consul General Mohammed Al-Otabi told Reuters that while the consulate was equipped with cameras, this is on the outside, they did not record footage of Khashoggi entering or leaving the building.
Wow, what an unfortunate break.
Yeah, they also said at one point that, sorry, the cameras we have outside don't actually record footage, they just live stream the footage, because that's how security cameras work. They don't record things. That's odd.
That would kind of defeat the point, isn't it? Okay. So, golly gee, we couldn't find the tape of him entering, or more importantly, leaving. So, gee, I wonder who did it. I can't quite tell. Now, important context. So, the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, is a guy who is a radical. He came here on a publicity tour, and since the Saudis give a tremendous amount of money to defense contractors in this country to buy arms, to politicians, and to lobbyists all over the country, et cetera. And they have friends in the U.S. government, Israeli government, et cetera. They were greeted with open arms, first by Donald Trump, and then honestly by most of the media in America. And
celebrities and
yes, and he came for a big publicity tour. He said, "Well, that's okay. I'm letting some women drive now in Saudi Arabia." And people are like, "Wow, what a reformer! What a great guy!" Now, by that point, he had already kidnapped a foreign leader and threatened to kill him while the foreign leader made the mistake of visiting Saudi Arabia. That is unprecedented and unbelievable. And that was the leader of Lebanon, who eventually made it back to Lebanon after doing some sort of hostage video in Saudi Arabia. And then once he got back to Lebanon and he was safe, he's like, no, I didn't mean any of the things that I said there. They were, that we had massive issues, right? To say the least, when you're kidnapped and threatened. I mean, I'm not sure Kim Jong-un would kidnap a foreign leader and threaten to kill him unless he made a tape saying, yeah, the Saudis are right. I mean to reverse course. That's crazy. Well, they certainly wouldn't. Kim Jong-un wouldn't capture him to say that the Saudis are right. But you see my point.
I know, he's a crazy guy.
You never know with him, right? So here's a guy who then, by the way, again, more context for bin Salman. He's a relatively young guy. He's in his 30s. His dad is theoretically the leader, but as the crown prince, he's been acting as the leader, and his dad has given him that authority. And he rounded up a lot of the other Saudi royals, including billionaires, put them in a fancy hotel, and then threatened to kill them until they handed over their money. I'm sorry, that was an anti-corruption campaign. He was shocked to find out that the other Saudi royals had been taking money from the Saudi people. Of course, that's what he does, but apparently he thought it wasn't enough that he was taking from the Saudi people. He wanted to rob his fellow Saudi elites and threaten them, like, you better watch yourself, and that was his way of accruing power. And next time, it won't be just that we imprison you in a hotel, and it could get worse. And by the way, the guy is absolutely brazen, as you can tell here as well. In the middle of robbing the other Saudi princes and royals, he bought a $500 million yacht. He's like, oh, you see how corrupt they are. I had to imprison them and do an anti-corruption campaign while I spent $500 million. Well, to be fair, he got that money mowing lawns in the summers and a car wash and the whole thing. Oh no, right, he got it from the Saudi people. Yeah. Right, I forgot. Well, okay.
It's difficult to even imagine how a yacht could cost that much. It turns out though it was a hand-me-down. It used to belong to Betsy DeVos. Yeah, I don't know what that. It must be nice, I assume.
Yeah. So look, these are changing times. So when the U.S. president doesn't much care for our democracy and says that the FBI is the problem in this country, and law enforcement, maybe it should be illegal to cooperate with law enforcement. That's a suggestion Donald Trump made. When the Russian leader seems to assassinate people not only in his own country, but in other countries. I mean, we talk about what he's done in the UK several times. But there were several very questionable killings here in America of Russians. And I don't know why the US government has not made a bigger deal out of that. Very questionable deaths here. So Putin is doing that. Trump is calling the press the enemy of the people. Duterte doing the same. This is This is old school stuff. This is 1930s, 1940s stuff.
Yeah.
So emboldened by that environment, here comes Mohammed bin Salman and friends with the most powerful people on earth, the Americans and the Israelis. He goes, what can't I do?
Yeah.
I mean, I kidnapped a foreign leader and totally got away with it. By the way, I mean, the list goes on. He tried to foment a bigger civil war in Lebanon, which would have been a disaster, internal civil discourse and fighting and murder within the Palestinians. I mean, the guy is, it's a horror show, right? So would he do this? Well, in other times you'd say, no way, a foreign government is going to take a Washington Post columnist that lives in the US, invite him to the Turkish consulate and dismember him? That's unthinkable. But in today's world, unfortunately, very thinkable, and it appears to fit the fact pattern. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.